Hey folks, it's Tommy Topdecker back in the house once again with another extra special video just for you. And today we're talking about a favorite subject of mine, and no doubt a favorite subject of yours, and that's Fallen Empires. So Fallen Empires was the 5th expansion in Magic the Gathering. As you know, it came after Arabian Nights, Antiquities, Legends, and the Dark, and it kind of has a kind of a bad, notoriously bad reputation. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about why Fallen Empires has such a bad reputation. And meanwhile, I'll just go ahead and sort some of these Fallen Empires cards. I'll be sorting from between bulk and cards that might be worth a quarter or more. So so let's talk about Fallen Empires. So if you go back to 1994, let's try and get in the mindset of the typical Magic player. So at that time, to keep in mind, first 4 expansions, Arabian Nights, sold out in a few days, maybe a couple weeks, depending on where you were. Cards going for 40, 50, 60 bucks each. Ali from Cairo, Guardian Beast, Light of Alexandria. Those were money cards at the time. Next set, Antiquities, comes out. Basically sells out in a week. Antiquities, some people were not too keen on it. It got a little bit of a bad rep, but it's still instantly sold out more or less. Next set, Legends, comes out. Legends, Wizards bumped the print run a bit. It was a larger set, but still, that sold out in a couple weeks. And you saw cards like the Elder Dragons going for 30, 40 bucks at the time. Basically, it was a huge success. Everyone loved it. Then the Dark came. The Dark maybe took a few weeks to a month to sell out. Basically, at the time Fallen Empires was released, you couldn't find the Dark. It may not have sold out everywhere, but you couldn't find it for retail price. No way you're getting Dark for $1.50 a pack, which was retail. You'd have to pay maybe $4.50, $5 a pack for the Dark. So more or less, those first 4 expansions, they were hugely successful, and you couldn't get them for retail unless you really stomped right away on the product. So keep in mind, at the time, every expansion ever released was money in the bank. So here comes 5th expansion, Fallen Empires. Everyone says, wow, Fallen Empires, just like the first 4 expansions, it's got to be a success. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to, spend all my cash on these Fallen Empire packs, because who knows? Who knows if I'll be able to buy a pack next week, right? Because if you go by what the other sets did, it's going to sell out instantly. I better buy it now. So that's why you saw a bunch of folks, buying a bunch of packs, cracking packs. People going into to Gamekeeper, which was a retail store at the time, buying full boxes, 90 bucks a box for retail price, 90 bucks plus tax. And people just thought, there's no way this won't be successful. There's no way. If I buy a box today and put it on my pillow, I can sell it next year for 4 or 5 times what I pay for. That's what people thought, because that kind of worked for the first 4 expansions. But you know what? It didn't work. It didn't work for Fallen Empires, and the reason it didn't work is that Wizards finally printed enough product. If you look at Magic was a new game at the time, so Wizards, they didn't really know what they could sell, so they took a conservative approach. If you run a business, you're making stuff. One of the worst things you can ever do is make more product than you can sell. You get stuck with the product and you take a huge loss. You got to write off the product. So Wizards knowing that, they kind of took a conservative approach. Said, okay, we'll make as much as we know we can sell. They did that for Arabian, for Antiquities, Legends, Dark, and basically they saw that the market demand was there. Everybody wanted Magic the Gathering, as a game, as a collectible. Everybody wanted it. So finally, with Fallen Empires, Wizards, they printed enough so that basically everyone who wanted it could get it, and that's good for people who wanted it because they wouldn't have to pay markup. They could count on it being in the shelves in a few months, not selling out instantly. But it really caught the speculators off guard. So the speculators who thought that they were going to become rich off these Fallen Empire products, it didn't happen. They're not scarce. Objectively, they were not a scarce product. They were printed sufficiently, and that is why. Going back to '94, at the time, people just hated Fallen Empires. And I'll tell you a story. We used to play single elimination, tournaments. You pay $5, single elimination type 2, standard as they call it now. And first place would be like $40 or something, decent price. But the store, as a joke, they had a losers bracket. So if you lose, you play in the losers bracket, and the first place is a pack of Fallen Empires. That just became the joke. Fallen Empires just became basically a huge joke, worthless, garbage. That was the theme, basically, that the stench that Fallen Empires kind of got. And some people, if you ask them about Fallen Empires now, ask anyone who's playing back then in '94 and '95, they ask them about Fallen Empires, they're going to tell you, yeah, Fallen Empires, that's a terrible set. It kind of got a bad rep. People say the cards are really bad, but that's not the full truth of it. Actually, if you look at the cards from common to uncommon, commons especially, the commons are really actually quite strong in the set. And even if you look, probably among the best cards in the set are these Pump Knights here. These are commons, and they're just great cards. People used to play these over White Knight, Black Knight, and these were basically staples of Standard back in the day. People even played these in 1.5, Type 1, Type 1.5. High Tide, again, people made there's a legacy deck built around these High Tides, but again, they're common. So the commons are quite strong. Javelineers, another very strong common. People used to play this in Type 1 Vintage. It gets rid of Birds of Paradise, it gets rid of Dark Confidant, all kinds of stuff. So the common cards, again, Goblin Grenade, wow. This is an amazing card. And it's common, unfortunately. And finally, I'm looking for a hymn. Is there a hymn anywhere? So the best card in the set, as you probably know, is none other than Hymn to Tourach. Hymn to Tourach. This was kind of the best card in Standard, more or less, for quite a while. I think it got restricted. It was basically the engine that Necro used to disrupt their opponent, and it was an amazing, awesome card. If this was a rare card in Fallen Empires, it probably would have been a $10 or $15 card at the time, but it was common, so it was worthless. And because all of these great cards are common, they're not really worth anything then. They weren't worth anything then, and they're not worth anything now. And if you look at the rare cards, unfortunately, the rare cards like Ring of Renewal is a great example. They're just not very interesting, and they're just not very good. And I think the big mistake from designer point of view is basically they didn't make enough rare cards that were good, that people wanted. There were basically 0 rare cards that were good. If Him was a rare, right now that would probably be a $50 card. Imagine Him to Tourach was a reserve list rare. Easy, $50 to $100 right now. But they just made it common. Aeliopile, this is actually one of the decent uncommon rares. So back in the day, blue had no creature removal. It's one of the few ways blue could deal with creatures. That saw a little bit of tournament play. But overall, the commons in this set are just really good. They're just really solid. Like Initiates of EBON HAND. This is not a tier 1 card, no way. But it's it's a 1/1 for 1, and it does something cool. You can pump your Drain Life mana through it. It's a neat card. And again, it's a common Thallid. Again, it's not a super powerhouse, but it's a neat card, and it's a common as well. So more or less, the pattern here is that the commons are pretty decent to very solid. But the uncommons and rares, D-Lift's Cone, come on, man. Basically, they just blew it. They blew it on those uncommons and rares. So I don't know what they were thinking with the design there, but they kind of hosed themselves. Just because when every rare card is garbage, and there's just no reason to open product. It's kind of it kind of just depresses the product. Breeding Pit was an okay card. I mean, it's kind of fun. Probably outclassed these days. It's kind of fun, uncommon. But for the most part, I think the reason the set now does so poorly, the reason there's not a card worth more than a few dollars, is just that all the rares are garbage. And overall as a set, though, if you look past the valuation, and you look past the fact that the cards are still so cheap and you can get them for nothing, it's quite a good set. The cards are fun. I think overall they're definitely more playable than, let's say, cards from the Dark and Legends. If you look at like a typical common from Legends, typical common from the Dark, they're kind of janky. The commons from Fallen are actually playable and kind of interesting. So you know, if you're interested in Fallen Empires, the thing about Fallen Empires, it's so cheap that you can put together a set probably for, you know, $50, 50 to $100. Probably, you know, Gem Mint maybe. Gem Mint set might be $100. Probably much cheaper for a regular set. So I definitely think, you know, if you're interested in the early days of Magic, check out Fallen Empires. Definitely don't buy sealed product at Fallen Empires. Go out and you know, build a set, build a common set even. You know, if you build a common set, you got the best cards, and you get 3 or 4 art in all those commons. It's definitely a piece of Magic history, even though it's not worth anything. You know, that's just the way things turned out because of the print run and because of how they structured the commons and rares. So hey, but it's a great set. It's definitely worth collecting, worth remembering, worth just going back and checking out the cards like we're doing right now. So hey folks, you know, it's been Tommy Top Decker. It's been fun going through these Fallen Empires cards. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a little bit about Fallen Empires. And that's all for today, so I'm out.